There is a huge feeling of that it is a condition of vanity. It's very far from vanity. Again, a lack of education in a lot of area brought these blaming models and talking about, you know, I think it's the lack of understanding.
People assume that it's just to do with image, that you're just trying to be thin, that you're trying to emulate, you know, models in magazines. It has very little to do with that. I knew I didn't look attractive. By the end, you know, as I say, I was exceptionally thin, and I knew that wasn't attractive to anyone. But that wasn't even really the issue.
And their only identity, it's the either anorexia or bulimia. Especially anorexia is so glorified by media that people nearly wear it like handbag. A lot of the young ones nowadays don't want to recover. They prefer to actually suffer because they get all the attention when they suffer, you know, all the care, and they're afraid to be free.
Friends react very differently. I had some friends who were exceptionally supportive and to the point of being extremely patient. I wasn't fun to be around. I could have died. The people had said to me, you could have a heart attack tomorrow. No part of me ever wanted to kill myself. No, I always wanted to be alive and to live, and I think something in my head had to connect and say, oh, okay, actually what I'm doing could ultimately, like, I'm not going to live if I keep doing this.
Eating distress is very health damaging. Most fully recovered people actually do have a lot of medical complications, because when you are in the early stages, you are totally in a denial of the severity, because the body and mind is disconnected. So the body is very numb, you don't feel pain, and the destruction is quite intensive. It's part of the condition.
Recovery was a slow process. It, from when I realised and actually went to the GP to say that, you know, I had a problem and I wanted to try and fix it, it took me years to really sort of, I suppose, to have recovered, to reach a place where I could say, yes, I've recovered.
Yes, I personally think prevention is the cure, except my opinion will be, you know, that we are so much focusing all the time on awareness. You know, we talk about awareness, and I think this awareness is nearly creating eating disorders, you know. And I think we need to more focus on understanding. One thing what we are finding, that sufferers do not understand properly themselves, and to recover you need to fully understand.
And my mum took on the role of sitting with me at every single meal, of putting my breakfast in front of me, of sitting with me until I ate everything on the plate, of doing the same at lunchtime. And I know for her that meant she had to take on the sort of the draconian role of sitting with me, and sometimes sitting with me while I cried until I had eaten everything in front of me.
Schizophrenia is one of the psychoses. It can be triggered by anything. It happens earlier for men than for women. It can be triggered by a life event, substance misuse, bereavement. So schizophrenia is really about a loss of touch with reality. And what they often lose is things like motivation, interest in socializing with others, but also certain emotions like feeling warmth or empathy.
I would say that when I experienced psychosis the first time, I didn't know what it was. To be honest, actually, when I was depressed the first time, I didn't know that I was sick either. But for psychosis, I didn't understand the thoughts that I was having, and, you know, feeling paranoid and stuff like that. And it didn't seem to tie in with what I thought my mental health problems were.
Schizophrenia is very treatable. And very importantly, the earlier somebody gets treatment, the better.
They're just thoughts, bizarre thoughts that I have, and thinking that there's things happening, going on around, like thinking that there's a conspiracy, or that people are leaving clues for me to find. But then when I learned that they were symptoms of psychosis and schizophrenia, I was able to come to terms with them and realize that they were, you know, sort of symptoms that I was experiencing, but that could go away with help and with treatment.
Treatment varies from person to person, but a combination of things is best. By a combination of things, I would mean usually somebody would be prescribed a medication, but they would also have the opportunity to talk about their symptoms with a psychologist.
I think a schizophrenia fight club, to be honest. multiple personalities, kind of ups and downs, very high highs, very low lows.
When I think of schizophrenia, I don't actually know. I don't hear a lot about schizophrenia. It sounds like a serious mental health
Different
disorder,
like
and I've never known anyone with
personalities.
it. Yeah,
Where you have two different
Multiple
personalities.
I think by and large, unfortunately, there is still people are a little bit in the dark about mental illness and what it means to be depressed. And even more so, I think people are confused about what it means to experience psychosis.
1% of the Irish population, will experience or will be diagnosed with schizophrenia at some time in their life. So it is a condition that affects thousands of people, and those thousands of people are going on every day with their lives coping.
And last week the FA released training guidelines for all professional footballers to take into account for mental strain. Do you think there's grounds for calls for all people, all professional industries in the public eye to have those guidelines? Like singers as well and dancers.
I just think we should be more educated. I think like mental health is such a kind of, people are embarrassed about it and they don't want to talk about it, and if you feel you're affected by mental health issues, you shy away from it. You don't want to be branded, you're painted with that brush.
A great campaign called Please Talk, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was actually just thinking about that. Yeah. The one thing about Please Talk that I really like, it was the first time I'd attended kind of, the closing ceremony, that kind of thing. Obviously, like, it's a mental health campaign, it's promoting mental health in DCU, and like it's an excellent, like I think it's an excellent campaign. But the one thing that really stood out for me was the message that you're strong if you can speak out. Like you're not a coward. Like talking is actually a sign of strength.
Money and financial strain now is causing other students and other people to consider to develop mental health problems. Like clearly now the recession, you have people losing 10 and 12% of their incomes, and they can't afford to go to college, and they can't afford to go out, they can't afford to socialise, can't afford to buy books, and it's putting a lot of strain on families and people. We had 10 organisations in the hub in DCU, mental health organisations, and one of them was Anorexia and Bulimia Ireland. Do you think that is a growing problem, mental problem among students as well these days?
Absolutely.
Eating problems and eating disorders.
Yeah. I think you just don't understand how many people suffer until you actually ask. The way like everyone knows somebody, and like I personally have so many close friends, and you almost start to look at yourself because you're thinking, wow, so many of my friends like suffer from this illness. And I think, oh God, the main thing, like obviously it's just on the increase, because like academic stress, financial stress, like the grant being cut 60%, like it's anxiety, and it just makes you feel like the pressure puts you under.
I'm definitely in a place where I realise nobody has to be perfect. I'm not perfect. Things I do won't always be perfect, but actually that's okay.
I'm aware that mental illness is just an illness, and people can recover and people get on with their lives again, and it's not something that there's no hope for.
Basically follow I suppose their own goals and ambitions and hopes for the future. It's very, very important for people with schizophrenia to have hope and to believe that their life ambitions can be achieved.
I suppose one of the biggest things that we can do that improves our mental health is giving back.
The more they start to enjoy later working mental and spiritual work on themselves, and they're connected with the world and with one another, there are no relapses.
Even if it's just getting out of bed, it's something that you've accomplished and it feels good, and then you can just build on that.
Everyone has different opinions on how to change mental health, but we have opinions and we have solutions and things that we think will work. So it's just really, really important. Young people, we have the energy and the enthusiasm and the passion to change the way people see mental health. So it's just really, really important to look after your mental health and well-being and talk, because talking is a sign of strength.